10 years. 10 years of cheeky breeky, 10 years of gear fear, and 10 years of waiting. And now the Tarkov 1.0 release is finally here. After almost a decade in the beta, the godfather of the genre is officially launching tomorrow. This should be the single greatest moment in the game's history. If you're a Tarkov fan like us, then you're not just hyped, you're nervous. And that's because as Tarkov finally prepares for its 1.0, the state of the extraction shooter genre has never been more competitive. But competition isn't new for Tarkov, and it has survived for all these years for a reason. So if you're here for another Tarkov Killer video, well, this ain't it. We don't want Tarkov to die. We want it to cash in on this 10-year buildup and to give us a game that we can play for the next 10 years. And that's why we're making this video. All this new competition is the best thing that could have ever happened to Tarkov, and to be honest, the extraction shooter genre as a whole. These new games are massive, flashing neon signs, pointing out all of Tarkov's deepest flaws, and hopefully forcing BSG to finally fix them. This is the state of the extraction shooter, and this is Tarkov's moment of truth. So, what are the flaws that after 10 years are no longer acceptable? To see them, we have to look at the failures of the past and the biggest competition of the present. Some of you may remember the Cycle Frontier. It launched to a quick 40,000 player peak, but it then quickly collapsed. Why, you may ask? A massive cheater problem and a crisis of identity from bad developer decisions. Sounds familiar if you're a Tarkov player, but at least Tarkov players try to hide it now. The Cycle Frontier cheaters, well, they took advantage of an extremely weak anti-cheat and just flaunted it by flying all over the map and killing entire lobbies from underneath it. They just seemed to not care. The developers were overwhelmed by this and too slow to act in fixing the anti-cheat, so they were unfortunately unable to overcome those issues. They became the failed example of what happens to games in this genre if you don't put forth considerate effort to prevent and resolve those systematic issues quickly. But this new wave of competitors is different. They're trying to be the solutions to what people perceive as Tarkov's issues, and at least one of them is becoming a commercial monster. Let's take a look at Arc Raiders. It launched to over 416,000 concurrent players, and it also sold a whopping 2.5 million copies in its first week. How? Well, by relieving Tarkov's biggest barriers to entry. It's optimized and accessible on consoles. It's got free loadouts to solve that gear fear problem. It's built to be approachable, fostering a shockingly chill community by making the AI the main threat. It takes a similar approach to Tarkov's PvP/VE style, but there is more focus on PvE and having players feel powerful. There is a gear score system in the game that functions like skill-based matchmaking, so that you will never be in the raid with a chatted out squad if you come in with just light shields and a level 1 weapon. It makes the AI the focus of the world and incentivizes players to team up to beat them. We've all seen the clips of entire lobbies teaming up to kill the queen. Also, information is more readily accessible, even down to the small things like a flare shooting in the sky when you down someone, so that you know that you did in fact down them. And by all accounts so far, people are loving it.
Yeah, this might be, I'm not kidding, this might be one of the best games this year. It probably is going to win Game of the Year.
Big streamers seem to be jumping ship from Tarkov to hop on the hype train. They're ready for something new because Tarkov's in a stale state in the current point of its wipe, and people are getting bored with no new content. Or look at Gray Zone Warfare. It launched to a 72,000 player peak by unbundling the Tarkov experience. It's a tactical MMO FPS on a massive 42 square kilometer persistent map. It solves permanent gear loss with an MMO style corpse run. It solves the PvP only barrier by offering a joint operations PvE mode that shares progression, a move that doubles its potential audience. Gray Zone blurs the line of exactly what an extraction shooter is and appeals much more to the milsim community with the massive persistent map, allowing players to slow down the game substantially. This is super appealing to the Arma-style players who enjoy implementing more real-life tactics rather than running and gunning. We've also seen COD's attempt with DMZ, Activision's massive budget attempt, but it was abandoned. It was trapped in the middle, too watered down for Tarkov vets, but too hardcore for the mainstream COD community. And the list goes on, from simplified clones like Arena Breakout to different subgenres like Hunt and Marauders. The entire market is speciating. But out of all the competitors, let's be honest, I think most of us can agree that so far, only Tarkov can do what Tarkov does. Now let's be perfectly clear. We do not want Tarkov to become approachable or chill. This is the competition's design, and that's totally fine. But we are Tarkov players. We welcome the pain. Arc Raiders and some of those other competitors have proven the chronic optimization bugs, broken audio, and aimbot AI are solvable technical flaws, not just features of a hardcore game. They are unacceptable and completely solvable flaws. And it means for 1.0 that Battlestate Games is completely and finally out of excuses. This 1.0 launch has to be the moment the game's foundation is finally as hardcore as its vision, because for 10 long years, the technical flaws have been at war with that vision. The community is right to argue the game is not ready for 1.0 if that foundation is still broken. And we are praying that finally all of those flaws are solved. Let's take a look at some of the biggest issues we are hoping our 8 years of beta testing has solved for 1.0. Number one, the netcode. This shouldn't be difficult. Even after all of the supposed updates, this is still the garbage netcode we've had for 8 years. It's that infamous peeker's advantage. It's that moment where you sprint, you get behind a concrete wall, and then you die. That doesn't reward skills, it invalidates it. And let's not forget about the audio, the primary threat detection system. We've all been there. The silent nade. The enemy who sprints up a metal staircase behind you without even making a sound. The audio has constantly been broken and unfixed. A system that is broken isn't punishing, it's a defect that makes the game a coin flip. A death to a silent enemy isn't a hardcore experience, it's a game-breaking bug. And speaking of bugs, let's talk about optimization. Chronic stutters and memory leaks that get you killed right as you start a firefight. Flagship maps like Streets of Tarkov are still not even playable to half of the community. That isn't hardcore. That is a failure of the engine to support the new content that they keep adding. But there is one thing that Tarkov 1.0 absolutely has to get right, and that's the wipe system. Nikita touched on this in a recent interview with Pestily and said there'll be a seasonal character that wipes twice a year, but it won't be in the game on release. Instead, it'll be a permanent character that we start with in 1.0, and completing the main storyline will be tied in with the prestige system. It seems like from that interview that they have been focused a lot on getting the game completely optimized and removing all bugs. Nikita mentioned that there were over 10,000 lines of code that have been changed, and patch notes were too big to even put out. And that's great because the foundation of the game is critical for this 1.0 launch. But to keep people playing, the main storyline needs to be compelling enough to entertain people before the seasonal wipes come in. As we've seen, there are historically massive player influxes at the start of wipes and a slow trickle down as the wipe goes on. They can't miss that timing, and if they do, Tarkov may finally die. The glory and the fun of wipe day on Tarkov is everybody starting from the same position. Nobody has an advantage. Sure, you can argue that Unheard and EOD players may have an advantage because they're given specific loot that the lower editions don't have, but you're all starting in one place, and that's ground zero. If you're just, prestiging or your seasonal reset through the middle while everybody else is still doing every other thing, it's not interesting anymore. What makes going and getting the pocket watch so fun on customs is the fact that so many other people are trying to do the same thing. It's not fun if I'm the only one doing it, so I just run to dorms, get the machinery key, run to the truck, get it, and leave, because nobody's either playing customs or everybody's just boss farming and there's no interest in what I'm doing. The interest is when I'm having to fight for that, the survival, knowing that all these other players are trying to accomplish the same goal, and how can I best them and slightly get ahead. And then that, getting ahead can then help you snowball. That's the fun of it. And
Oh my God! We're rich! We're rich! We're rich! We're rich! Hey, yeah!
Also, seasonal character will be implemented, and there will be 2 wipes per year, as it was before. The DLC, most likely, it depends on DLC actually, but the big DLC, one big DLC, I think it will be available 1 per year, but also we'll have different patches, big events. We don't treat them as DLCs actually, but they're quite big. And this is why we will have, for example, these 2 big patches per year and several smaller ones. But these 2 patches, one of them will contain DLC and one of them will contain some big stuff like event or something.
Nikita doubled down that they were planning new content and it will keep the game alive in his interview. So if BSG actually executes on that vision, then we have hope. And Tarkov may just become the undisputed extraction shooter GOAT. So what is the future of Tarkov? Nikita gave us his answer. He said the 1.0 ending should be a lifetime achievement and that not everyone will be able to escape. And we agree 100%. But that lifetime achievement must be earned by the player and shouldn't be stolen by broken audio or garbage desync. It also can't be a boring, repetitive time sink so that people lose their interest. To me, this is something that they really have to nail down, because after playing the past couple of years, yeah, it's fun to do wipe to wipe to wipe, but it just seems like each time it's just less and less time spent on the game. And that's not just for me, that seems to be like for a lot of people. Wipes just die out sooner. So this main story and adding new story elements and having go to the traders in raid and stuff, that sounds really fascinating and cool. And if the story and lore of Tarkov is cool, which the lore is cool from what you can go research and learn about it and read throughout the game and stuff, but actually have it presented to you in a cinematic format would be so dope. And that's something that they just have to get right, because it's got to be something that's going to keep you coming back more and more as the years goes on. Because when you look at another game like Ark Raiders that's really blowing up right now, it's a game that it has cinematic cutscenes between its quests. It has that lore element, and it also has that more ease of access. But like we said, we don't want ease of access in Tarkov, but we don't want players to get bored and move on. So this story has to be entertaining. The quests need to be fun and exciting, not just going and planting fuel somewhere or planting iskras in a bunker. We need stuff that's exciting and rewards that are exciting to work towards. It needs to be something that shows true skill and dedication to the game. We don't want an easier Tarkov. We want the real Tarkov. We want the game that taught us that it's not your gear, it's just your turn. We want a Tarkov where the only thing that's punishing is our own bad decisions, not a broken engine. But even if they do fix every single bug, 1.0 faces a new existential question. Tarkov's real forever loop, its real endgame, has always been the wipe. The boom-bust cycle that kept us all coming back, driving viewership up by over 200% every 6 months. So if we can leave BSG with one absolutely crucial question that they hopefully already have an answer for, it'd be this: what will keep us all playing even after we escape? That is the 1.0 promise that they truly have to deliver on. We are cautiously optimistic, but the ball is in your court, BSG. fix the bugs, preserve the hardcore replayable game loop. Don't blow it.